What's up, everybody? It's 12 noon. It's the 16th day of March, 2022. It's 3/16, Stone Cold Steve Austin Day. It's 63 degrees and sunny here in this small island off the coast of Costa Rica that I apparently live on. And it is the OGGM, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, March Madness, let's go UCLA, and general internet nonsense. And speaking of general internet nonsense, it's time for some theory crafting, or let me have a go. We know there's a lot of predictions and a lot of hemming and hawing over what Wizards of the Coast has plans for Dungeons & Dragons. We know there's an announcement on the 22nd, and we know that 2024 is just 2 years away, so things are ramping up for the big 50th anniversary. We have discussed the D&D is not D&D. We have discussed that there's two 5Es. There's 5Es before Tasha, 5E after Tasha. We've discussed a lot of things, but now let's go into the future. As a stockholder, a Hasbro stockholder, yes, I do have some Hasbro stock. Oh, yes. I believe I have some say. I mean, not much. It's not like I have a lot of stock, but I do have stock. So let's theorycraft. Let me have a go. Here's what I think Wizards of the Coast should do going forward after the announcement on the 22nd with the 50th anniversary coming up. Okay. For the 50th anniversary, for D&D 5.5 or D&D 6, I think they should rebrand it. I think they should get rid of the edition, stop calling it 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and call it Wizards of the Coast Presents Dungeons & Dragons, the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. Tabletop role-playing game. It's a tabletop role-playing game. It's nothing else. Okay, and there's a reason why I think they should change it to that. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they'll call it 5.5. I don't know if they'll call it 6th. But I think they should drop the editions altogether. And just call it Wizards of the Coast Presents, or Hasbro Presents, Dungeons & Dragons, the world's most popular tabletop role-playing game. Okay? And that's important, so have that floating out there. Wizards of the Coast Presents Dungeons & Dragons. That'll be the new name. I'm going to drop the editions. Second, Spelljammer Planescape. That should be the next big book that comes out. Or that should be the book that comes out in 2024. That should be the new Forgotten Realms. That should be the new core world. There's everything that is going on in D&D up to today is perfect for a Planescape Spelljammer type universe. The engine of 5e, especially as the engine of 5e stands today, does not emulate the classic style of D&D. That, the 80s style of D&D. The OSR, the retro clones, those are all designed to emulate the classic style of D&D. The 5th edition engine does not emulate that classic style of D&D, which is one of the reasons why I say it's not D&D. But you know what it does emulate? Adventures in space. Oh, yeah. High frontier, over the top, the short rest, advantage and disadvantage, low-level characters having infinite access to spells. Yeah, it definitely embraces Spelljammer / Planescape. Now, I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know if it's just going to be like Planejammer or Spellscape or, Planeskipper, Planeswalker. But I think if they're going forward with this system-agnostic idea, if they're going forward with the Dungeons & Dragons multiverse, then drop the Forgotten Realms, let Ed have it and do whatever he's doing with it on DM's Guild. Drop all the worlds and just go forward that there is this multiverse that can be reached via spell skipping or plane skipping or whatever we're going to call it, Since it's magic-based, we'll call it planeswalking. So we have this planeswalking world, and that's the core. That's the new core book. That's the new core world. Dungeons & Dragons new core source book is going to be Planeswalker. Every product that comes out after Planeswalker should be additional worlds for Planeswalker, or a collection of worlds for Planeswalker. So since they're playtesting Dragonlance on Earth their camera right now, there's a lot of hemming and hawing. Are they going to do Dragonlance? No. They're not going to do a Dragonlance specific book. Dragonlance is going to be one of a group of worlds that will be part of Planeswalker. I mean, we already have Ravnica, we already have Theros, we already have Strixhaven. We can make those part of the multiverse. Dragonlance, Kryn can just be another part of the multiverse, and it can be part of the first supplement book for Planeswalker. Much like the same way that Tales from the Yawning Portal or Saltmarsh had a group of semi but not really interconnected adventures, or Candlekeep had a group of semi but not really interconnected adventures. We do the same thing. We have a book that comes out that has a group of semi but not really interconnected worlds, and maybe one or two adventures on their rules. And maybe there's an overacting plot that, you have to travel to these different worlds and get, I don't know, the ultimate Spelljammer helm, or the 7 rods of Gygax, or who knows, whatever. Or stop Vecna, or stop Acerasek, since he seems to be a plane, jumping bad guy now. If you've read Tomb of Annihilation, and how the idea that Acerasek is jumping around multiple universes, creating these little tombs to sort of just test them, and that's what he does for fun. Sure, that could be the plot. And we have Dragonlance, we have Kryn, we have Darksun, we have Ravenloft, we have Theros, we have Ravnica, we have whatever's next, all part of this multiverse. And we cover them in the first supplement for Planeswalker. And every other book after that is either an adventure for Planeswalker or a new world for Planeswalker. And they can do all the Magic the Gathering worlds. They can do Innistrad. They can do the Artifact War. They can do, the worlds they haven't touched yet that they still have their rights to. Mystara, whatever else, Darksun, Mythica, whatever worlds we're in, Star Gatherer, Gamma World, who knows? They just got tons of backlogs of worlds that are TSR / Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons that Jason created. So that's what I think they should do. Now, why do I think they should change the name to Wizards of the Coast Presents Dungeons and Dragons? Because everything that comes out is their presentation of Dungeons and Dragons. And as Crawford said, their presentation of Dungeons and Dragons, their system agnostic presentation of Dungeons and Dragons, doesn't have to have anything to do with your presentation with Dungeons and Dragons. That's why he went with the whole no canon. Your world can be whatever you want. Here is the blueprint. We present Dungeons and Dragons, but the OGGM's presentation of Dungeons and Dragons could be completely different than Wizards of the Coast's presentation of Dungeons and Dragons. And that's okay, because now Wizards of the Coast has given this blueprint for the Planeswalking universe. And, we've got 33 player character races now, which don't fit in a, classic D&D Lord of the Rings setting. Cat people and rabbit people and demon people and tree people and sandwich people definitely don't fit medieval Europe, King Arthur, Lord of the Rings, classic 80s emulation D&D. But they do fit Planeswalker. They do fit the idea that there's multiple universes, and now we're presenting ways for characters to travel these multiple universes. And there's all the adventures are going to be about this Planeswalker world. And that's Planeswalker is going to be the core world. And Wizards of the Coast is presenting these products, but you, the DM, can choose to use or ignore whatever you want, because your presentation of Dungeons & Dragons is your presentation of Dungeons & Dragons. We've just given you the blueprint, and you can make whatever world you want, include or not include whatever you want, because it's a D&D multiverse now. It's system agnostic. We don't have a core Forgotten Realms anymore. We have a multiverse. And in that multiverse are all the things we've created, like Ravenloft, Strixhaven, blah, 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 blah. But there are other things. This is our presentation, but your presentation, the OGGM's presentation of D&D, can be completely different. And I might use a completely different world. I might use Darksun. I might use Kobold Press Mythgar. I might use Green Ronin's Freeport World. I might use Frog God Games, Slumbering Sar. All of them have been made into 5th edition. I could use the Iron Kingdoms, which I think is another great setting that would be perfect for the 5e engine. So, yeah, that's why I think they should change the name. And if I have any say whatsoever, if my predictions, based upon the way I'm seeing, I think they're going to change the name in 2024, drop the editions, just call it Wizards of the Coast Presents Dungeons & Dragons, because there's no way they're dropping Dungeons & Dragons. And the core rule world, much like, the Forgotten Realms was in the past, will be Planeswalker. And everything that comes out after Planeswalker, including Dragonlance, will just be new worlds or collections of worlds for Planeswalker. Much the same way Saltmarsh, Tales from the Yawning Portal, and Candlekeep presented a series of interconnected adventures, worlds, ideas. Here's a series of interconnected worlds, one of which is Dragonlance, but I don't think we're going to do an entire book on Dragonlance. But we could do a book that includes Dragonlance and maybe sneak in some type of powered down, more politically correct version of Dark Sun. We could maybe even sneak in a Greyhawk in there. I don't know who has the rights for Greyhawk, if they do or they don't. And Mystara and the Hollow World and everything else that they've ever made could all be just more planes. Now, I don't know what they're going to call it. They're going to call it Spelljammer. They're going to call it Planescape. They're going to make two separate. I don't think they should make two separate. I think they should just make one. Spelljammer and Planescape, just one thing. And when you're spelljamming, you're not going to other planets. You're going to other universes in this vast D&D multiverse. That's what I think. And Wizards of the Coast presents D&D, and your presentation of D&D can be completely different, and that's okay. So if you're running a universe where there's no tieflings, that's okay, because that's the blueprint that Wizards of the Coast has given us. Your world doesn't have tieflings. But that does not, but there's the opening that a tiefling from another universe could come to your world, or you could simply say, in my corner of the multiverse, there are no tieflings. And Wizards of the Coast says that's okay, because remember, there's no more canon. And now everything is world agnostic. So here's the multiverse. That's their presentation of Dungeons & Dragons. Here's mine. So that's what I think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What do you think Wizards of the Coast is going to announce next Tuesday? And what do you think their plans for 2024 are? Those are my plans. Those are what I think they're going to do. I'm putting it in an envelope. That's my bet. Along with we're going to see a D&D tabletop role-playing game exclusive internet provider by 2025, much like Peacock or whatever. But yeah, let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know what your ideas are. Please consider supporting me. Summer's coming up, and I would love to have 1,000 subs by August 4th. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. More fun coming. Anyways, that's it for today. I will see you later. But until then, get out of my multiverse, you damn kids, and your damn Death Knight, Dragon, Spell, Urza, and Mishra. God, I hope we see 5e stats for Urza and Mishra. That'd be awesome.